Okay, this whole workshop is about collaboration, so I thought I couldn't possibly talk about myself or on my own. So I brought these guys along. This is Shane and Karl from Locker13. And one reason I brought them along is anyway, they're great guys and you should hear about them. And they hopefully talk a bit about themselves. So collaboration, that's what I was asked to talk about. Or try to find another word for it. So collaboration, or the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. This comes mainly from knowing that it's always good to quote somebody smarter than yourself. And I'm pitching really high. Okay, this is Aristotle. But I look for a kind of a more contemporary. He lived, I think, around 2,000 years ago. So, but something that is very close to this idea is the term of synergy, which you heard before. And the Oxford Dictionary says the interaction or cooperation of two or more organizations, substances, or other agents to produce a combined effect greater than the sum of their separate effects. And that's very much, I think, what collaboration is about, or can be if it works. Not every collaboration works. So Innen, that's me. I do collaborate, hence I qualified for this talk. Innen is just a short story. I came here I think a few months before, came to Ireland, had, by the way, my first job interview just 13 years ago, almost to the day up here, one story up. And have been here since, born and raised and shaped in Germany, reshaped in Fallons. That's the pub down the road. And the rest is history. I'm here and I'm doomed to stay. And I won't talk about soccer, okay? So I'm collaborating. And just a personal note, George talked about integrity and collaboration and all this. I'm an odd fish because for 13 years I've been part of big organizations and I've gone the trodden path. And only 6 weeks ago I jumped out of this to go out on my own, which seems to be the opposite of collaboration. But I think the integrity in it is that I think it's where I always meant to go, but I wouldn't have done it without the framework of a collaboration. So it's, do you get the Twix logic in it? But that's how it worked in my case. So I collaborated already, and just Innen was conceived 2 years ago, but as I said, kind of born 6 weeks ago. So long pregnancy, but mature baby. So I collaborate already with a good few people, with the Fumble Exchange, with NODA, who I've had a great path with in the last 2 years, with George Boyle, with DPM, who are in the exchange, but also with Locker13, who we should be not insular even in our little group, because this is another great group, the Malt House up on North Circular Road, and the guys will tell you a bit more about it. So collaborations. So I'm talking about a collaboration that was a very specific project. It was NODA, Nicky O'Donnell Architects, me as part of them, and Locker13. And what came out of it was something in the field of product design, which is a real strength of the guys here. So nobody's asked this question today. Why do we collaborate? So I have 7 brief answers. A, because we always did. We just didn't call it that way. That was me 13 years ago after I succeeded in my interview. Being part of I'm the gray one. I was always at the front of photos, not fronting the organization. But so that was me. That is Celtic Tiger. That was the end of Celtic Tiger. And this is when you're there, you kind of need to look around and regroup in a different form. Okay. So simple is Phil Kelly in the room. He would always say we collaborate to make money or to make ends meet. But he's a nice guy. He just phrases it that way. And and it's really true, because collaboration for me now is probably the only way to make a shilling. So in Germany we call it to put the butter on the bread, or in my case more to put the sausage on the plate. So it's literally just survival. Then there's the social aspect. If you are used to this format, then having meetings with yourself is actually really no fun, and you end up in a bad place. So the fourth reason is together we have more impact, and I just tried to find good visuals for this, and it's something I really loved is so okay, we can make some impact by a garish red umbrella on a beach, but if you're 150 people and you gather, you can have an amazing impact. That's a brilliant campaign by architects across in the South Studios, ABGC architects. They did this campaign for the Blood Transfusion Board of Ireland, and it was just a brilliant thing done on Sandymount Beach. Architects thinking outside the box. It's not a building, it's great, just umbrellas. Then this is, when I read through my script, this is actually probably the most crucial point for me. Not everybody is good at everything. And it's kind of, okay, some are actually good at everything. But I came to the realization I'm actually not. And believe it or not, I was suffering from a lot of delusion there. And it took me bloody 41 years to really, to have that moment of clarity. So I'm not good at everything. And I gave myself an awful hard time over that for years and years. And it's rubbish, but it took 41 years. Here I am. So, and on a personal level, I call it the triathlon problem. I love running. I always looked at the guys who do triathlons and I thought that's a cool thing to do, but I'm an okay runner. I'm a reasonable cyclist. I'm crap at I'm really crap at swimming. So this is on a personal level and not corporate. The best analogy I could find on collaboration is the relay solution. So what I found is my wife is an excellent swimmer, can't run, can't swim. Her sister-in-law, she can cycle. so it's just, I think it encapsulates this. I mean, we came second last in a field of 400, but I could play with them, okay? So otherwise I couldn't have done it. So this is an example that probably everybody knows. It sometimes takes more than one idiot. And this is about, even if it goes wrong, when you have more than one head, it can eventually go in a strange way. It can go the right way. Everybody knows this example. In 1968, a chemist at 3M was attempting to develop a super strong adhesive, but instead he accidentally created a low-tack adhesive. So that's the first thing that went wrong. Second, a colleague of his who attended one of his seminars came up with the idea of using the adhesive to anchor his bookmark in his hymn book. There's a great use for that, I'd say. Then 3M took it on, launched the product in stores 1977 under the name Press and Peel, but its results were disappointing. And the rest is on April the 6th, 1980. The product was then debuted in US stores all over the country as Post-it notes, and the rest is history. But you can see the logic how even failure can, with collective thinking, kind of make a happy ending. And then back to my thesis at the beginning, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Now Exhibit A comes back into play. I couldn't think of a better analogy than how the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And just picture the beautiful amalgamation and miracle that a fine carrot cake is, and to savor this. And then put yourself in the situation having to go through each ingredient on its own. So you get the picture, and we were dissing kind of engineers before, but maybe the bag of sugar is your architect, but then your 200 gram of flour, that's a bit like eat the QS bit. But you see how they all have their place. In the end, they make a beautiful cake. So sorry for any QS in the room, but okay. So that's why we collaborate. We just do it quickly on one example, and that's how the guys are coming in. As NODA, we were asked, we won a competition or a pitch to do the interiors of a hotel in Dublin, which we can't name. It's all about, anyway, I can't name it, but maybe some know which one it is. I worked on the actual hotel bedroom. And we came up with this concept that somehow the hotel has an affiliation with the music industry, and then to have a design hook, the idea was to link the interiors of the room and the whole hotel with the concept of music in its broadest sense. And we thought we do this by giving the room some texture and rhythm and translate music into built environment. So this is just imagery. How could you translate that into a scoreboard, something you could graphically represent, or the idea of an equalizer that could become whatever, a carpet design. The idea of graphics that are not music, but maybe the 3D sound wave representation of music. And then how a light fitting can throw a rhythm in shadow and light onto a wall. So in the end, we had everything done. Basically, concept design is fine. You know, you promise your client whatever, it'll work. But so there was 3 bits left in the room then that I wasn't too sure. And one was that light fitting that beautifully does this shade thing on the wall, but it was absolutely way too expensive. It's a fitting from Italy that costs €750 pop. Then there was this idea of the glowing nightstand. I hadn't really figured out how it works. And that's against my own measurement of I'm good at everything. So you see where you can give yourself a hard time. And then the other one was a glowing kind of kitchenette recess where I really hadn't a clue how it works. And that's where the story of collaboration started. I admitted that I'm not good at everything. And I saw this on the 3rd of June supplement in the Irish Times. And the guys are lucky or unlucky because I only read the supplement. So had it been in the main paper, I wouldn't have found it.
So yeah, as we said, Andreas kind of came across this in an article in a newspaper, which is very lucky from our point of view. And I'm just going to briefly kind of give you some background into our small little company called Locker13, comprising of myself and Shane Wilson, who went to school together, studied industrial design together in NCAD, graduated in 1999, and spent then 10 or so years kind of in and out of the design industry. In 2010, we officially launched Locker13 from the Malthouse, as it is now known as the Malthouse Design Centre. And just prior to that, for about a year or so, we just worked on some of our initial kind of pieces, which are very much sort of one-offs, prototype type stuff. Both share a great passion, interest in looking at found materials, trying to upcycle materials, and generally just play with interacting very diverse different materials together. So top left there will be a chaise longue we showed in Italy. Kind of interestingly, we produced the solid ash in Ireland and transported the whole thing over in suitcases and put it together on the spot over there. So that kind of led the way into other items then in the same year. The Des chair made from carpet and bent powder coated steel. The Johan stool made from printing tubes and felt. Big Al pallet and aluminium coffee table. And the High Tower bookshelves made from birch ply, mild steel, and sort of offcuts of industrial rubber flooring. So that was kind of where we kicked off in 2009. 2010 then saw us just kind of move on a bit and create a range of small interior products and lighting. The first one here you see is the Sive table. Again, powder coated steel, and we knocked around a few ideas in terms of use and kind of elements involved in this small piece of furniture side table. So we came up with the idea of a bamboo forest below that can take your newspaper, magazines, and all that kind of stuff that kind of clogs up the living room. Next up is the comfort lamp, which is made from ceramic base is based on the Comfort fabric softener bottle, which we got molded and cast the base in, and the shade is made up of a few thousand plastic beads, which we've come up with a kind of system where we fuse them in an oven, and then we create a seam and form it into a cylinder. And then from that we have carafes and vases in the same design. And finally, just another sort of small range of pieces: footstool, a stool, and a side table. Again, made up from collected materials, found materials: acrylic, Foamex, plywood, felt, aluminium, and the legs are spindles. Thanks. So in terms of collaboration, over the last 12 months or so, we've begun to collaborate, and this is an example of a collaboration with Jennifer Slattery in the Malthouse. She's an upcoming, rising star in the textile world. So we worked on the structure for the lamps, and Jennifer then produced the embroidered fabric for the shades, and the resulting pieces there in the corner are the luminaire shades, the lamp shades. So as Andreas alluded to earlier, we are based in the Malthouse Design Centre on North Circular Road, and that has developed over the last couple of years from kind of ourselves joining, and now we're made up of a number of practices and individual designers, both young and more experienced.
Yeah, so just with regard to the Malthouse, it's a little bit of a different model, maybe too fumbly, but it has a lot of kind of commonalities as well, in that the kind of vision is a one-stop shop for certain types of clients who can come and access furniture designers, interior designers, textile designers, there's 2-3 architectural practices as well, and it's grown from when we moved in there 2.5 years ago, and there was 2 businesses there, or 3 businesses there. There's 17 businesses there now, and continues to grow, we hope. And just as of last year, we kind of put more structure on it, in that we got a little bit of funding together. We got a business development manager who works there to market and promote the place and try and create some structure. And we've already seen sort of some of the benefits of that. The piece that Andreas saw in the newspaper came out of an exhibition organised with a bit more structure than our previous exhibitions, and promoted a bit better, which was a lighting exhibition, which was very successful in trying to attract the right type of clients rather than everybody's families and friends for a glass of wine. So just to move on, or to go back briefly to Andreas' slide. So this is more or less what we were presented with by Andreas. And he puts it very well: very expensive light, a very preliminary concept for a nightstand, and then very, very preliminary, sorry, I'm being unfair, but a concept for a tea and coffee cubbyhole or recess. And then our job, I suppose, our brief was to take the essence of all that and make it work, really. So we started generating concepts for the nightstand, for a light that never went ahead, which is a corridor light as well, and the kitchenette, or the tea and coffee station. And previously, although we've done commissioned work for clients, it would usually be a piece of furniture for their home. And although there's a kind of collaboration when you're trying to respond to their requirements, it's not really a professional collaboration at all. And this was new for us, really, to collaborate and try and, together with Noda and with Andreas, to actually, develop the lighting for this room to respond entirely to the vision that's still in the architect's head, and products we know we can make and that we're proud of, and we can produce and deliver. So various concepts for this suspension light were presented or shown and discussed, and then the idea, this is more or less the final suspension light here, the idea of the pattern of light and the musical reference, so we delved a bit deeper into that, came up with this idea of a suspension light that would first of all cost maybe a third or less of the first, and we took a polypropylene sheet and die cut it with this treble clef musical cymbal, 80 or 90 cuts into the material, and then when you wrap the material, they naturally open, and then so there's more structure to make that all happen, and it gives off, that's an early concept just in our studio there, but it gives off the kind of light that they originally wanted, and also it kind of keeps this musical thread through the room. So that's a little bit more further developed, where you can see the cutouts. So this went back and forwards through the design phase, and also responding to budget restraints and back and forward. The nightstand was a kind of a big challenge, because a glowing box sounds like the simplest thing in the world, but it's in a hotel room. It gets a lot of abuse. It has to serve as a nightstand, and maybe someday have a pint glass dropped on it. Someone's going to shove it off onto the floor. It's a kind of a challenging environment, and a glowing box that doesn't appear to have any structure, and it is just kind of sitting there on a shelf, and you can slide it around. Turned out to be a lot more difficult than we thought.
Easily done in Photoshop.
Yeah, it's really easy in Photoshop. But eventually we got there, and we made some prototypes. It worked out really well, and then it's just some exploded views of how it eventually went together. That's about it.
Yeah, just to wrap it up, we have gone a bit over time, but I think you would agree to that beautiful light fitting with the clef. That has taken my initial idea to totally somewhere else, and that's the beauty. Like, it wasn't just me telling and them executing. I loved when concepts came back, and it was a real, you bounce off each other. And is it Nikki or I can so concur with. It started to feel a bit lighter or happier. It's really nice to work that way, and that I could, I see what you mean. So to conclude, I'm just quoting from someone, the Universal Design Partners, a company in the US. We're not good at everything. That's not our intent. We don't want to be. Our approach is to partner with others who are great at the things they do, with the goal of combining expertise to provide an incredible service. We'd be bad partners if we didn't understand the things that others are great at doing. So it needs two experts, but with different emphasis. So, and another thing I learned, and that is, I think it's just amazing. This is a small country with a lot of big talent. Very little is actually impossible when you dig into it. And next time, think, imagined, designed, and made in Ireland. Guaranteed Irish. Literally, I mean, we started from an Italian light fitting that is run off a mill 1,000 times, and they charge a fortune. When you talk to people like Karl and Shane, there's a metal guy in Mullingar. There is literally powder coating in Galway. We have it all here. We just don't have the confidence to say we can compete with these Italian guys. Okay, so my last picture is the Ballymun version of Guaranteed Irish. I love it. So, okay, that's us. So, thanks for listening.